Hey everyone, Mike Wolf here again with another author spotlight interview. And with me today is the author of Wolves and Ravens, Book Two, Choice. His name is Richard Spegal. Richard, hey, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks for the invitation. Nice to be here.
So give us your background before we get into the book. How did you become an author and how did you come up with the idea for these stories?
Well, I've been writing since high school. Right after high school, I joined the 82nd Airborne Division, and I was active duty for a few years. Before then, later, I changed over to the Pennsylvania National Guard so I could have like a better balanced military, civilian, family life. Writing was always kind of a background hobby for me, just because there just wasn't any time. But in the last couple of years, I decided to start doing it full time. I was in a military hospital for a couple of years, and then I was medically discharged. So I decided, if there's ever a time to do it full time, now's the time to go. And my the Wolves and Ravens trilogy, I started writing vampire novels, my Eternal Night series. So the Wolves and Ravens trilogy grew out of a short story that I wrote my wife about 13 years ago, before she was my wife, because I wanted to attract her. So I used writing to get the girl, so to speak.
Nice.
And then I always wanted to do something with that. That short story was only like 6 pages long, and I built an entire trilogy out of it. And I ended up having a lot of fun. So I did that whole trilogy in about a year and a half while I was also doing research for Eternal Nights.
Oh, well, first off, thank you for your service. And second off, so I don't know when it was, but I remember that Twilight series was very popular about 15 years ago. Was your wife into the whole Twilight vampire thing?
No, neither one of us are 14-year-old girls, so we of course did not like that nonsense.
Yeah, so I figure yours are probably a little more advanced and have a little more detail. And I'm sure everything you've seen with your experience definitely affects how you write, correct?
Yeah, that's true. I try to focus on adult-oriented entertainment as for people with more mature tastes. The complications and the realism and organic growth of the story is what I focus on. So that way the characters are the ones actually telling everything.
Amazing. And now tell us about this story in particular, how it begins with the idea that 1,000 years of peace was built on a lie and what you mean by that.
In the first book of the trilogy, The First Law, it explores how at the very end they had a great war 1,000 years prior, and the war suddenly ended with the writing of the Great Accords and the First Law, and that's in their histories. And their civilization for the last 1,000 years have been built off of that. But there's a lot of confusion in the sense that they don't trust their histories because it doesn't really their history doesn't really make sense. So a lot of the races are researching things in the background, and then that first law about keeping wolves and ravens apart, nobody really understood it. By the start of the second novel, Choice, most everything's been introduced. All the world building has been done, and it gets a lot darker in where everything is kind of building to like this final battle, which takes about a third of the book.
Okay. And your main character is Princess Qiàn, spelled Qian, correct? Tell us about her and kind of what are the challenges she faces throughout the book.
Well, she starts at 7 years old from the beginning of the first book, and the first book takes her through her life. She starts as just a petulant little 7-year-old girl who doesn't want to do any training. She just wants to wear pretty dresses, and her the male character Qatar, her protector, has to kind of find a way to get through to her to start kind of forging her into what she needs to be. And that all happens in the first book, to where by the end of the book she's a young queen. She's still only like 25 years old, but she's already ready to go down in history as like the wisest, bravest, like strongest fighter queen that they've ever had. But on the personal side, which the reader gets to see the personal side, not just the public face, and you see that on the personal side how badly she suffers and how emotional she gets because she can't handle what's happening, and things like that, and that builds her into this powerful female character who's actually realistic because she's got the bumps and bruises to go with all of the perfection.
Okay.
And then the second book, Choice, she's already the queen, is when she starts to having to face like how massive of a scale this war, these battles are going to potentially be. They know it. They learn at this point that they're actually fighting legitimate demons. So she has to accept the fact that demons are real. Then they've got this new character who the readers know this new character is the angel Gabriella, who's been cast down, lost the power of her voice, so she can't speak or communicate. But the wolf and the raven don't know that. She's just this mute girl who is following them around and having to get everybody to accept the truth that they've already learned, and trying to find out what ravens are, because they don't understand the races don't understand even what they are, and they have to answer those questions and stuff like that too.
Okay. And now, can potential people who want to buy this second book choice, could they read it as a standalone, or should they read the first book prior? What would you recommend?
Well, I'm always going to recommend starting with book one. So, I mean, if it's a trilogy and you're starting with book two, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
I mean, it says book two right on the cover, but okay. you will understand what's going on. You just won't enjoy it as much, but there's enough. Because all of my books are always a series, and I always sprinkle in recap information. I don't just recap. Like, I don't spend the first chapter recapping the previous book. I hate it. I hate it when they do that. It's such a waste of time. But I'll sprinkle the information in there naturally, so you'll kind of get it. You just might not understand why certain things have happened.
It's like the TV shows when they say on last week's episode, and they have a little montage of what took place last week.
Yeah, all you did was just destroy 2 hours of runtime, which reduces how much new content you can give me.
Exactly. So let me ask you, I'm an actor myself. Now, as an actor, I'd like always, whenever I see books like this or trilogies, I wonder, does the author see this being made into a script, or converting it to a script for potential production as a film?
Yes, actually. And in my case, because I'm insane. That's why they kicked me out of the military. So I see these things happening. Like, I experience these things as if they're real. And that's how the detail and the realism is so total. And people will tell me, wow, your books are so cinematic. And well, yeah, because for me, the movie came first, because I see it happening in my head and I write it down. And I actually am working with the company to do those things, but there's a lot of NDAs involved, so I can't really get into that.
Well, do you have any roles for an older white guy with long hair, about 54, with a gray beard?
Maybe not in Wolves and Ravens.
All right, next one. You got to write me in the next one.
Yeah. Maybe in Eternal Nights.
All right, so moving forward, tell us more about this book and what people can expect, when it comes to like emotional epic fantasy world building. How did you create this whole world? Is this something you create in your mind, or is this something you research? How did you create the world that Princess Qiàn lives in?
It kind of creates itself. I know that, like, I get it. I understand it's fiction. So somewhere in my brain, I'm the one creating everything, but I'm not doing it consciously. Like, whatever part of my brain is doing all of this, I don't have conscious control over that. It just happens. And then I let the characters run around and do whatever they want. I don't make a plot and then force the characters to do what I want, because that's fake entertainment. I let the characters run around and live their lives, and they're the ones that create the plot. That's why I don't outline the stories, because if I'm outlining it, then I'm telling the characters what to do, and I don't want to do that. I want the characters to tell me.
If you don't do that, how do you involve creative twists or things that might surprise the reader if you're not pre-planning the writing?
The characters do that. The characters do that.
Nice.
Real life can be complicated, twisty and turny. There's a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of dark stuff too. So all you really have to do is just let it flow naturally, and those things happen. Because it's not just Qiàn and Qatar. They're not the only real characters. All the characters are real, and they don't all agree with each other. So there's all sorts of weird twists happening. And in this trilogy, it does get really twisty. There's a lot of stuff, like, if you do not read from the first page of book one, by the time you get to the final conclusion, you're going to be confused.
Okay.
You gotta read it all, and then you're going to see, like, oh, wow. Because there are hints, there are little tiny hints sprinkled all over the place from the very beginning of the trilogy that don't pay off until the very, very end.
All right, now what kind of feedback are you getting back from either beta readers or readers who've read it from both book one and book two? And is it the similar type of feedback for both books?
I get, like, amazing feedback. I love it. And I love the people when I'll get feedback where the person won't say like, "Oh, great book. Oh, I love the book." They'll look at me and like, "How did you do this?" Like people are so jaded that they don't even understand being fully immersed into a story. And it's like, "How did you write this to where my immersion was total?" and things like that. And then when with the second book, well, things get kind of dark in all of my writing, but the second book is a lot darker than the first one. So I do get a lot of feedback regarding that, how people, maybe were a little bit terrified, or, things hit a little close to home and stuff like that. But that's the intention. I want the emotional connection with people.
Okay. And how long did each of these books take you from start to actually finish?
As far as active typing, like 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay. And then do you hire an editor and go back and make changes? Do you go read it and make changes? Do you take input from other people? How does that work?
I used to hire an editor. I don't do that anymore because you're paying a gajillion dollars for somebody to make all these subjective changes. And I challenge people, hire an editor, make all of the changes they suggest, immediately give that to another editor, and there will be just as many changes suggested. So I use editing software. Now, there is one rule of thumb that no author should ever edit their own work. And there is some intelligent thinking behind that, because you don't always see what's really on the page. You see what you want there to be on the page. But part of my insanity is that I can separate my creativity from my analytical brain. And I do have my own editing software. So yeah, that was a long answer to your question.
That's fine. That's what we're here for. So what type of personal experiences, be either military or any kind of life experiences you've gone through, influence the themes in this book of courage, truth, responsibility that are all kind of shining through in this book?
A lot of my military experience has helped my writing because I'm able to make things a lot more realistic. Not so much in this trilogy because it's fantasy, so we're not using like modern day equipment and stuff like that. But the military experience helps with a lot of the fight scenes, a lot of the formations and stuff like that. And one of the biggest things, life experience wise, is being a victim of so many mental disorders and illnesses, and having had so many problems. I can cross those lines and actually do it realistically. Okay. Very few creators will cross those lines because they're either afraid to or they don't know how. But that to me adds the realism, because your characters are going to suffer and nobody's immune to stress. So everyone suffers in one way or another. I have to show that suffering if I want the book to be realistic. And like I said, I will cross every line. My books explore things as bad as rape, crucifixion. I've got characters that have suicidal tendencies that actually get into like detailed situations with that. And
when you cross those lines of suffering, do any of your readers say, well, this is just too much for me to handle or take in because either affects them emotionally or maybe it's just too much? What do you think of that?
I have, from the feedback I've gotten, people love it because it completes the immersion. I have had some people tell me that they had to stop and like take breaks and stuff like that, which I have to do that when I write it sometimes too, because I mean, I'm the one writing it and it will affect me to the extent that I have to take a break. I have had people contact me and tell me how much it helped them because they themselves had some kind of illness or disorder that they were struggling with, and seeing such powerful characters suffering through those same natural phases like helps people to see like that you're not alone. A lot of people like us, we feel like we're alone, but we're not, because there are so many other people like us out there. It's just not everybody reaches out to find them.
Yeah, and if they're taking a break, that's definitely a compliment to your writing. If it's that emotional or that intense and they have to take a break or step back, that definitely shows that this is something that people are relating to or reacting to. Let me ask you this: do you already have in mind what you want to do for book 3 and how you're going to close this out?
Oh, that's already the whole trilogy is out there. It was re-released at the end of last year when we changed everything to my own brand. So the conclusion is out there. That was a hard book to write. That book took me nearly a year because that book was so dark in so many ways that I couldn't handle. I couldn't handle writing it. So that took a long time, the conclusion.
Could all three books fit into one feature film, or would that not be possible?
Oh God, no.
No, yeah.
No, I wouldn't even. It's tough to make a film out of just one book because there's so much information that has to get cut out for a screenplay.
Okay. And for any authors out there who wonder, like, how, I have this book idea, or I have this book I've written, and now I want to convert it to a script because obviously it's a different layout, right?
Yes.
How do you go about doing that?
You generally need to find somebody that knows what they're doing because the skill set to write a book and the skill set to write a screenplay are two very different. I cannot write a screenplay. I assist in it with the people who are doing it for me. I assist them, but you basically need to find a company that's going to do it for you. And I always suggest people there's an organization called the Alliance for Independent Authors. It's a nonprofit organization for people like us. And if you join them and you can find a lot of vetted companies, so you don't have to worry about people taking advantage of you because you can find companies out there that have already been trusted by other authors like you.
Okay. And as someone who's written three books and has the experience, if there's someone out there who's had a book idea for years, or they just can't get their mind around it, or maybe they start with a chapter and they quit, how do you follow through? How can they take your advice and follow through and really create that first book?
That's a little tough because unless they have this, like I said, but most of my artistic stuff comes from my disorders. So it's difficult for me to translate that to a normal person. I would say for some people, maybe outlining it. I know I already said earlier that I don't do that for very good reasons, but sometimes it can help you to put your thoughts in order if you just outline it really carefully, but with the understanding that when you start writing it, that outline should be fluid. You should be willing to change it if things don't come out the right way. You just got to find whatever your inspiration is.
Amazing. Okay, well, for the viewers out there watching now, I'm going to put the link down below to Richard's book, the Amazon link, and his website, which is richardspegal.com. And also follow him on Instagram, Richard Spegal Books. That should be everything you need down there. But definitely, if you could, start with book one, like Richard says. And if you have any feedback, we'd love to see it in your comments down below, or even contact Richard through his Instagram, if he's okay with that.
Yeah.
So, hey, Richard, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time on the Author Spotlight. We wish you all best of luck in the sales of not only Choice, but the other two books. And we hope that if these do come to fruition as a film, you'll find a good role for me and pay, a good amount for my weekly salary. I'm just teasing you, Richard.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again for having me.
Take care.